The young and the restless spoilers. After weeks of turbulent separation, Claire Newman and Kyle Abbott finally face the possibility of spending quality time together, yet the weight of recent events makes their reunion anything but simple. Across the ocean in France, Kyle navigates his own emotional turmoil, while Audra Charles lingers, a shadow of tension and unresolved animosity that threatens to complicate even the most tender of moments. Back in Genoa City, Claire waits in quiet solitude, the sorrow of losing her father, Cole Howard, pressing heavily upon her heart. The grief is raw and intimate, yet beneath it lies a persistent longing for connection, for reassurance, for the love that has remained steadfast despite distance and circumstance. The city around her hums with life, but for Claire, the world has narrowed down to the intersection of memory, loss, and hope. As much as she wishes to embrace these emotions fully, there is the lingering uncertainty of Audra. The whispers of resentment and veiled threats from Audra Charles are never far, and though much of her interference is unspoken, its presence is felt in the slightest hesitation, in the way Claire measures each word, each gesture, each glance. For Kyle, the threat of intrusion is tangible. He understands that the intimacy and private moments Claire craves, the gentle reconnection of hearts temporarily separated, could be undermined by Audra's manipulations. He longs to provide Claire a sanctuary, a space where the past week's turbulence can dissipate, where they can simply exist as themselves without intrusion. Yet he knows the reality is rarely so simple. The delicate dance of affection and strategy begins in earnest. Kyle's thoughts are consumed with ways to shield Claire from Audra's influence, to preempt the subtle jabs, the questions with hidden agendas, the insinuations meant to destabilize their fragile emotional equilibrium. Every plan, every contingency, is layered with intention. When the moment comes, only Claire and Kyle will remain, uninterrupted and fully present. Yet even as he imagines their reunion, the unspoken truth lingers. Audra's presence, whether physical or psychological, is never entirely absent. For every tender thought Kyle harbors, there is a counterweight of suspicion and vigilance. Within this charged atmosphere, Kyle envisions the perfect prelude to reconnection, a space untainted by past grievances, an environment designed to rekindle intimacy without distraction. He imagines the subtle nuances of conversation, the comfort of familiarity, the electric undertow of shared smiles and lingering touches. The anticipation of simply being together, the closeness of conversation, the warmth of touch, is intensified by the weeks of separation. Yet the threat remains: will Audra's shadow intrude, undermining even the most carefully constructed plans? For Kyle, the solution is clear: before anything truly joyful can occur, any interference must be neutralized, the emotional battleground cleared so that the heart's intentions can emerge unimpeded. The stakes are not merely emotional. They are a test of trust, patience, and resilience. Claire's grief for her father coexists uneasily with her desire for closeness with Kyle. Kyle's protective instincts extend beyond mere safety. They encompass the preservation of their shared emotional sanctuary, the safeguarding of moments they can claim as entirely their own. Every decision, every maneuver, becomes a subtle negotiation of space, timing, and personal boundaries. It is in these negotiations that the depth of their connection will be tested, revealing not only the strength of their bond but also the endurance of their love amid external threats and internal vulnerabilities. In this intricate interplay of desire, sorrow, and strategy, the very essence of their relationship is at stake. The reunion Kyle and Claire seek is more than a physical presence. It is the restoration of trust, the affirmation of enduring commitment, the reclamation of moments stolen by circumstance. The success of their reconnection will hinge not only on the management of external interference, Audra's veiled manipulations and lingering hostility, but also on the ability to navigate the internal landscapes of grief, longing, and residual doubt. As the city continues to churn with its own drama, Claire and Kyle stand on the precipice of either profound intimacy or further complication, aware that the resolution of the past week's turbulence depends as much on strategy as it does on the raw authenticity of their hearts. For Kyle, urgency mixes with tenderness, a desire to demonstrate to Claire the depth of his feelings while respecting the boundaries imposed by her grief. Each planned gesture, each careful word, is an effort to communicate not merely affection but understanding and empathy, to remind her that she is not alone, that her pain is recognized, and that love persists even through the most harrowing trials. The weeks of absence have intensified the need for meaningful connection, making every interaction laden with significance. And yet, even as he prepares for this intimate reunion, the lurking presence of Audra reminds them both that happiness in Genoa City is never simple, and that every victory in love may require the negotiation of power, influence, and subtle psychological maneuvering. As the narrative unfolds, the tension between proximity and interference becomes the defining axis of their story. The resolution, when it arrives, will not be accidental. It will be the product of careful timing, emotional courage, and strategic navigation of both human and circumstantial obstacles. Claire and Kyle's path toward reconnection embodies the quintessential struggle of the young and the restless, love contending with adversity, intimacy challenged by external forces, and the perpetual quest to carve out moments of genuine human connection in a city rife with manipulation, secrecy, and shifting alliances. Their story, as it continues to evolve, promises to test not only the endurance of their love but also the resilience of their hearts, setting the stage for dramatic revelations, unexpected confrontations, and ultimately, the possibility of reclaimed happiness. Kyle Abbott imagined the reunion with Claire as the perfect opportunity to remind her of the depth of his feelings, to erase Audra Charles from her thoughts entirely, and to reclaim the intimacy that had been delayed by weeks of distance and emotional turbulence. In his mind, this was a chance to create a space where nothing mattered but the two of them, the shared laughter, the lingering glances, the unspoken affection that had always defined their bond. Every calculated gesture, every carefully timed touch, was designed to communicate his love without needing words. Yet the lingering thread of Audra loomed over his carefully crafted plan, a shadow that could turn even the most tender moment into a battlefield of doubt and manipulation. Even as Kyle prepared for a romantic evening alone with Claire, he sensed the subtle cracks in her composure. Audra's insinuations had taken root, planting seeds of uncertainty and suspicion. Claire's mind flickered to what Audra had whispered about Kyle's intentions, the half-truths that could so easily be misconstrued, the insinuations that he desired her in ways complicated by past associations. The weight of first love, the fragility of trust, and the long shadow of external interference made each moment charged with uncertainty. Kyle could see it in Claire's hesitant smiles, the slight pause in her responses, the way she measured every word, every move. The threat was psychological but no less potent. Audra's ability to infiltrate Claire's thoughts made the simplest acts of affection a calculated risk. The tension escalated when Kyle drew closer, aiming to bridge the gap, to reignite the spark that had always burned between them. The air between them thickened with anticipation, every glance a question, every touch a promise. Yet Claire's hesitation was palpable. Her first love had taught her to question, to measure, to consider consequences she had not yet fully understood. The possibility that Audra had influenced her perceptions loomed large. Did Claire fear a betrayal that hadn't occurred? Did she worry that past encounters with Audra, now complicated by jealousy and deceit, might have changed the nature of Kyle's heart? These unspoken questions hung in the room like tension-filled smoke, and Kyle had to navigate them carefully, balancing the urgency of his affection with the patience that Claire required. Would this tension culminate in intimacy, or would Claire pull back, halting the moment before it could fully ignite? The possibility that she might recoil before allowing Kyle any further closeness was real. Her mind, still entangled with Audra's manipulations and her own uncertainty about timing, about propriety, about past encounters in France or imagined insinuations of betrayal, threatened to derail the delicate balance Kyle sought to maintain. The intimacy he envisioned, the private acknowledgement of their bond, the quiet reassurance of shared desire, was perpetually at risk of being interrupted by suspicion and fear. Audra, relentless even in the aftermath of losing Vibrante, remained determined to sow discord, to intrude upon the fragile unity of Kyle and Claire. Her influence was subtle yet potent, each whispered insinuation capable of destabilizing a moment already charged with emotion. If she succeeded, the seeds of doubt might blossom into conflict, pulling Claire away from the closeness she had longed for. Kyle, aware of Audra's persistence and the potential for chaos, needed both patience and strategy. He had to convey his sincerity without feeding the fire of jealousy or mistrust. Meanwhile, Nate Hastings watched from the periphery, his reactions unpredictable in the wake of unforeseen disruptions. Any unexpected interference or emotional blow could provoke him into actions that further complicated the delicate dynamic. His presence, however unintended, added another layer of tension, making the fragile equilibrium between Kyle and Claire even more precarious. Every conversation, every gesture, every intimate glance became a calculated risk, a test of timing, trust, and emotional resilience. In the midst of all this, the question lingered. Would Kyle have the courage to reveal past indiscretions, to admit if any physical or emotional closeness with Audra had ever occurred, including the infamous kiss, or would he choose silence, trusting the depth of his bond with Claire to withstand even the heaviest insinuations? The uncertainty intensified, adding psychological tension that threatened to derail his carefully planned romantic gesture. For Claire, the moment was one of reckoning. Torn between lingering doubts, the temptation of rekindled passion, and the desire to trust Kyle fully. Her decisions in these moments would define not only the present, but the trajectory of their relationship, a step toward reconnection and intimacy, or a retreat into caution and suspicion. For Kyle, every move had to balance assertive passion with strategic restraint, demonstrating love without forcing it, offering reassurance without appearing desperate. The stage was set for a delicate, emotionally charged dance, one in which desire, doubt, and determination collided. The next moments between Kyle and Claire could either solidify their reunion, proving their love resilient in the face of external threats, or allow Audra's manipulations to fracture their connection before it had the chance to flourish. Each heartbeat, each shared glance, each hesitant touch was a test, a moment in which love, strategy, and human fragility intersected. The outcome was uncertain, the stakes high, and the drama quintessentially the young and the restless, love challenged, trust tested, and hearts navigating a labyrinth of emotion, betrayal, and desire.